Every heartbeat, man. Agonizing pain.
All right, what's up, everybody? It's Ben and Rick. We're here with the Zen Heads. And if you saw our last episode, if that ever gets aired, we did an experiment about time. So we had later on, even after we were recording, we started chatting with each other and we were talking further about time and how we can, I guess we're too tethered about it. We think too much about it and stuff like that. Ben, what do you think?
So I remember what we were talking about was the whole idea was, okay, we're going to wrap our minds around the idea of detaching ourselves from time, meaning the idea of we have to get things done by a certain time, milestones in our life. Now, I'm obviously not talking about showing up for work on time and stuff like that. It's meaning we don't have to be married by age 23. We don't have to be moved into a house by age 28. We don't have to do all of these milestones that society is telling us about. So what we kind of touched base on was we're texting at like 11:30 at night the one day, and it was, does time cause the overthinking? Does expectations of time cause the poor self-esteem? Even does time cause poor relationships? So we started to see this common denominator was the variable of time. So as a group here, we decided, you know what we're going to do for the next 5 days? We're going to, whenever we get overwhelmed or we feel like, you know, things aren't moving as fast as we want them to be, what we're going to do is we're going to step back and detach ourselves from time. Detach yourself from the idea of time. And Rick, I will tell you what, it was, like you said before the call, well worth the 5 days. There was so much benefit, so many benefits, so many things that I just learned about myself. I learned about where I want to go, all because of the idea of detaching myself from time.
Definitely. It was great, and it's immediate too. I feel like I'm like pitching a sale here.
Yeah, right.
As soon as you take it, the pain of that nerve goes away immediately. But yeah, very cool. So I got some notes because I'm a nerd like that. But like, you ready to go through them? We'll just kind of see how
Let's hit it, baby. Let's do it.
Right. So
Top 30.
So lo and behold, it's like you said, it was late at night. All right, let's try it. I lay down. I'm trying to think, trying to go to sleep, but my brain's running a million miles a minute because I'm thinking about, oh, you gotta wake up at 5:30, blah blah blah, and I'm thinking about work. And I'm like, oh yeah, time detachment. So I stopped and I just stopped thinking about the time clock and everything like that, and I was out. Seconds later.
Done.
So very effective on the sleep aspect of it. And I was like, okay, that's a good thing to note down. So I don't know if anybody you kind of have that feeling where you're, oh no, I have to wake up in X amount of hours. That actually keeps me up. It's insane.
Yep.
So I broke off from the time thought and said, okay, forget it. We're not going to think about time. And it knocked me right out. So then I started getting into the real world. I'm driving to work and I'm like, all right, I have to get here at X amount of time. I plug into my nav. I'm like, okay, take me to work. I know where I'm going, but whatever. I put it in there. It says, okay, dude, you're going to get there on time. Okay, got it. Once I got that, I switched the screen and then I just enjoy a drive. So I'm going to segue all this together. I'm going to wrap this all, tie it together really. It's because then I'm at work and, you know, because we're in real life, we still have to check the box for a lot of activities. Now I'm at work and I have to do something by certain times. I have to blah, blah, blah. Everything's got a timetable tied to it. Even when I get home, I got other work I have to do. So I established my plan. All right, you're going to get this done and it's going to take this long. Start working on it. Right after I established my plan, I got the heck out of the way. I stopped focusing on the time. Once you have the machine rolling forward, stop thinking about it. That's the mind is a better tool than a master. Once you get your plan together, you still have to lay your foundation and do your work. And if you get your mechanism, okay, got it. I'll be able to do this in X amount of time. All right, let's get rolling. Then shut up about time. Got it. You got your plan, get rolling. Something knocks you off a track, well, then you readjust and build your plan a little bit. But if I was driving to work constantly thinking about time, my brain would just beat the heck out of itself. If I'm at work and I'm trying to do an activity and I'm like, oh no, X hours left, I'm going to do such a crappy job on that activity instead of being there right now. So back into the drive, once I was like, okay, yeah, you'll make it there on time. We're good. We're solid as long as we keep this certain pace. And I hand out the window and it was just such a relaxing drive. because I disconnected from it. And then I get to work and I'm doing that same concept of lay the foundation, get the hell out of its way. I did better on each task that I was working on because I just zoned in and just said, okay, I'm doing this. I'm not thinking 1 hour left, kind of goofy stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I was actually just
Yeah.
in the moment and I was jiving and I didn't have to worry about time. And if something happens, life happens, and you readjust and you manipulate the plan again. But that's the one thing that I was definitely taken away from it, because life happens. You still have to put something in there, but get the plan down in place with the timetables, then get the heck out of the way so you can benefit from that disconnect and really jive in the moment.
Absolutely. So crazy things happen, right? It sounds like, because I know I have this problem, is I'm not worried about the task at hand. I'm worried about the next 4 tasks that are supposed to be done after this task.
Right.
And all of a sudden, my day is jam-packed with stuff I never experienced because I'm so worried about the next thing.
That's awesome. I'm too busy with all the stuff that's about to come.
I'm so busy with the things that aren't happening yet.
That's awesome. I bet everybody has the same feeling. You're absolutely right. I'm on the same page.
Right? So that's like when you said that, you're like, okay, I get the chance. Like, I understand things are going to get done. I understand they're going to go at a certain pace. And if things happen, things happen. That's the idea of just like, we keep saying living in the moment. And whether we're detaching ourselves from time or we're doing, I don't know, any of the other practices we're starting, it all comes back to that being in the moment, is that Zen feeling, that peaceful moment where your brain is just clear and clarity sets in. That's really cool. That's really cool.
Any
I'm going to
other
tell you a little bit about
examples?
my experience, because
Yeah.
I had the 5 days, dude. It was one of those like I thought about getting a tattoo of a time, an hourglass that's broken and it were detached, because it was so beneficial to me. So what happened was we were talking and everything. The next day comes, I get a little overwhelmed out the gate because an interview I was supposed to have was postponed. Somebody got sick, and I was like, okay, I was supposed to be interviewing at 9:15, but now that doesn't matter. Today is still 24 hours. Detach yourself from the I don't want to say attach yourself from the attachment, but attach yourself from that attachment to 9:15. It's not that things are moved. It's that at 9:15, I was supposed to be doing something. Now I'm not doing something. What do I do? And that almost compounds. So I started realizing I can detach myself from a lot of things. Because once I detach myself from time, it doesn't mean I ignore it. It doesn't mean I'm not upset that, my interview was postponed. It's just detaching yourself from the emotional connection to it. So it was one of those things, like stepping out of your body and looking back and being like, okay, that's the thing that's bothering me. It's allowed to bother me. That's where it is. It's over there. It's not me. It doesn't define who I am. 9:15 does not define who I am. So all of a sudden, once I kind of got that viewpoint of it, when I started getting overwhelmed, started getting anxious and everything, I took the same thing. I detached myself from it. I just said, okay, step back, almost view as like there's a glass wall here, like a china like cabinet. And I'd be like, okay, all the things I can't control and can't do right now are blurry. I can't see them because they have no process. But the things that I can immediately, I don't want to say control, immediately address, kind of are clear. And instead of having them all at one time be so overwhelming, I just go, okay, what one can I knock off the glass first? And I take it out. And instead of being attached and feeling like that thing defines me, it's more like, okay, now when it's outside of my body, I choose it. I can then look at it objectively and be like, this is how I'm going to start it. This is how I'm going to prep for it. This is how I'm going to attack it. And this is how I'm going to recover from it. And all of a sudden, it just like moved into a different place. It's not who I am anymore. It's a thing I have to do. It's a thing I need to get done. It's not running me. I'm solving it kind of thing. So I just kept using that idea of detachment of time that you came up with. And I started detaching myself from all the emotional connections I was having that were ruining my days, and turned them into positivity and being like, okay, these things don't run my life anymore.
Awesome. So, gosh, we described the same exact thing, but in two different ways.
Yep.
I was like, figure out the ride, then get the heck off of it, or else you're not in
Uh-huh.
control. You're just kind of like locked in the trunk, and you're like, don't be encapsulated by it, but be on the outside and get the stuff in place, and then get on the outside, and then let the stuff do what it's supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Huge. I'll tell you what, if there's a whole bunch of deities that are really pulling the strings on this show, time is either one of them or the biggest one. Because, like you said, like once you
Absolutely.
detach you from that, it's such a domino effect. It's got to be one of the biggest linchpins for everything that's going on. Because once you separate from time, so many other issues, anxiety issues, start to get pulled away. Like I have to, even though I'm off on Monday, we got the holiday around the corner, I still have work that I have to do at home. But
Mhm.
that's going to anxiety, that's going to eat my brain up from here until then. Or I get my plan in place, my computer's already set aside, and I already have my little checklist going on. Then I set it aside. And I'm on the outside, I'm looking at the glass. All right, got it. That set's ready to go. And now I'm here. So it's crazy
Yeah,
how the impact.
it's so funny because like I almost kind of am seeing why some people. This is what's cool about this stuff. You can start to understand how other people think. Why some people are so attached to scheduling and block scheduling because that's their way of detaching themselves. And they say, okay, from this time to this time, this is what I focus on. And then when that's done, it's done. And I was like, oh, okay. So maybe just because I don't do it that way, that's their way of detaching themselves from the sometimes overwhelming feeling of tasks that have to be done through the day. This is a dedicated time. This is what I can do now. And then once this time is done, it's no longer on my plate. It's no longer, we're putting in the microwave to heat up later, maybe.
Right. When I
But
when,
yeah,
when I would coach and help some of the business owners, I would talk about that, and I always told them that I'm not an open door policy kind of person. Because when you open the door, say, "Yeah, come on in, just jack my time anytime you want." Now they don't say it that
yeah,
way, but that's really what it
yeah.
comes down to. Instead of you kind of being able to like, listen, this is where I'm focusing on this. After that, then I'm going to be focusing on this. So instead of letting the time sort of yank you around a little bit, it's kind of interesting.
Uh, Damian Lillard, the Portland Trailblazers, just posted this quote on his Instagram. And I don't know if I'm going to get word for word, but it was something like allowing people to have instant access or constant access into your life is an unhealthy human practice.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like that's so by you saying that, it's one of those like you put that into perspective. We talk about the columns, which wolf are you feeding, all that kind of stuff. What plants are you watering? It's the same thing. You have to be able to dedicate time to yourself. You have to have some kind of privacy for yourself. If your whole life's an open book and, like you said, an open door policy, people walk all over your time. People walk all over your energy. They don't respond the same way because they just expect that of you, right?
Right.
So I think that's awesome. You set expectations, you detach yourself from them, like, hey, this isn't personal, but I take care of myself, I take care of my son, take care of my personal life. This can't be a 24 days, 7 hours a week.
That'd be an awesome sign.
Yeah,
just so people can think
I'm
for a
open
second.
24 days, 7 hours a week.
So let's go fourth dimensional on this. Now, with the whole door policy thing, just so we have an analogy to hang on to. If you're allowing anybody to come on in and contact you or whatever the case may be, also you're allowing your thoughts. Now your brain is going to jump on the same exact train, right? Your brain's going to be like, okay, anytime I want, here's a thought, here's an anxiety, here's a whatever in the future. It's a revolving door. So if you let people come on in, then your brain's not going to be as disciplined either, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your brain's going to see it the same way, thought, people, whatever, and it's going to be flowing in, and you're going to be just in the trunk of the ride kind of thing like that.
Yeah, I have a really cool kind of realization that I had last night, and it didn't set in till right now when you were talking about that. So I was sitting there, and last night I was just, when you just feel weird, you don't know why, you just kind of feel a little tense. You feel like something should be happening, but it's not happening. You can't really explain it. Well, instead of, letting that compound, I opened up to my girlfriend and said, hey, like, I think there's something wrong with us, something going on. I'm just feeling a little weird tonight. And I don't know why. What happened was, by using this tactic of detaching myself, it almost does, like you said, give me that time of just really concentrating on me, and everything else is kind of in that glass china cabinet we're talking about. And I was able to realize that anxiety is such a physical attribute. Usually when my mind is attaching to things, it's just like we were talking about before. It's trying to connect those dots and create that fairy tale, create that, thing that just makes sense. And I realized when I detached myself from it, the feelings I were having was that, like, maybe escalated heart rate. I felt like my brain was racing, but I wasn't attaching to anything. And I realized this is just a physical trait. Anxiety is physical just as much as it is mental. When you take yourself out of all of those reoccurring thoughts and those common points you land on to connect another dot, it kind of becomes a little bit more manageable. It's almost like, wait a second, not only is my mind lying to me, my body's telling me a fib too. So you can kind of just be like, okay, now detach myself from that, understand what it is, and let it run its course. Let it have its day in court and be like, all right, here you go. But you're in control of that.
That's really cool, because you're right. It's going to come in physically, through the mind, from the outside, all different versions. That's going to be coming in. It depends on how we can control it. I think it was a couple of videos ago, we started talking about anxiety. And I think it was anxiety to where we spun it to where we realized, wait a second, maybe anxiety is a good thing. And maybe it's kind of like sort of communicate. My son's not in the background. He's like, yeah, that sounds familiar. And maybe there's a way to interpret it. But we've clouded ourselves so much with this open door policy of just anything controlling us, how time just yanks us around, to where when the anxiety does hit, it's not going to get translated properly. It could be a totally wrong message. We're using it wrong for sure. Where they're using a knife as a screwdriver, everything's wrong.
Yeah.
So just, it's, the detachment it was like a euphoric drug. It really was, like right out the gate, right when you broke off, you're like, oh my gosh. And you're like, wow, that's what the sun looks like. It was so damn immediate.
It's like you said, if you detach yourself from all of these things, like you said, using a screwdriver as a hammer or something like that, it's almost like I've gotten to the point where I detach myself from like accepting that things are the way they are. Like, this is just the way like, how many times a day I saw something. Did you know the hole at the end of a wrench is meant to go around a screwdriver to help unscrew it?
What?
Help unscrew the nail. So, like, that's the thing. I'm like, the way things were designed, people don't even know about. So it's so absurd to think that we have it figured out for ourselves. There's probably things that we are capable of doing that we're designed to do as, who we are as just an individual person, that we have no idea about. And we're that close. We have the tools. We just didn't know you have to put the wrench on top of the screwdriver and spin.
Right. Now we're just sheep in a system, and they're training us to kind of go into this nice little line. And then we grow up into it, and our bodies follow it. And then all these things are bleeping and things are calling us, and we're falling into line. And you're right. Meanwhile, that's not where these squishy bags of flesh is supposed to be going.
Yeah, no.
Hell of an analogy, I guess.
This squishy bag of flesh.
And it is, we're being force fed through this like industrial nation, but that's not the type of machine that we are.
If I'm not referred to a squishy bag of flesh at my funeral, I don't want people coming.
Right? They're not my friends.
They don't know me. But that's it, man. It all stems from that idea of just detaching yourself from time. And it's one of those, like, it was this huge revelation that I'm like, I can detach myself. And I want to be clear with this. I'm not detaching myself of emotions, of, important things.
Right.
I'm detaching, I'm detaching myself from the idea that it defines who I am. I define who I am, not the things that are happening during the day, not what people say to me. That's almost like when people don't get offended when people say hurtful words to them, but some people do. Some people don't let it take it personally. Some people aren't attached to the words that come out of someone's mouth. Some people are. So it's that idea of just being able to step back, look at the glass cabinets, and almost objectively look at it and be like, okay, that's what someone said. That's what someone meant. That's what someone's going through. This is where I'm at. There's so many things that go into it where if you attach yourself to every single thing, of course you're going to feel anxious. Of course you're going to feel overwhelmed. Of course you're not going to know what direction you want to move in because you're being pulled in so many directions. That takes up your time. That takes up your energy. And it's just no way to live. I look back to 1 week ago and I was like, my life has changed forever.
Yeah.
Like I'm absolutely like, there's like those little, maybe you step on a pebble and go just a different direction and it alters your life. That absolutely altered my life. Detachment.
Absolutely. You know, and you'll relate to this. I'm sure a lot of people that are going to be watching this might be able to connect with it as well. When you're coaching somebody or helping to guide somebody and they say, oh, here's my problem, A, B, and C. And you're like, there's a couple solutions right there. And it just comes to you, that detachment element of it. Because we're not.
Don't mind my dog. My dog's getting wild.
He's excited about it. So
yeah, he's like, detach me from this shit.
And how we can kind of have that creative solution to it because we're detached from their problem. I think maybe it's just a little similar to that, to where when we separate ourselves from it, then we can actually create a good solution, really have a more positive impact instead of being the character, the horror movie. No, don't run in that room. Oh, you idiot. Whereas we're watching it, we're like, oh, I know what I would do if I'm not
freaking idiot.
So, but it does have that sort of influence. Instead of just being pushed by the wind, you have such a greater impact. And as we keep doing this, and definitely post your comments, your input, try this out. I want to see your strategies on this because, Ben and I have already started to develop our own strategies of what we put in place, because you still have to live life. You still have the elements of bills coming in, right? It's blah, 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 all this other stuff that has to be done. But how do you cope with that successfully instead of being the passenger?
Yeah. Well, as coaches, whether it be life coaches, business coaches, we find it easier to help people through what they're going through. It's always easier to be the other person, right?
Right.
You're always the best relationship advice when you're not in the relationship. So it's almost, think about that. When you detach yourself, you're giving yourself the best advice you can. You're looking at it and you're not emotionally overwhelmed by it. So as people watching this video, you are the people that are detached from me and Rick. I want you guys to let us know, as the detached viewers, what's your input on it? What's your input on detaching yourself from time, detaching yourself from the anxieties, the everyday medial tasks you have to go through, detaching yourself from all these wild hand movements I keep seeing myself do.
Right.
I'm like, why am I don't know what to do with my hands.
I saw that video. That was awesome. I still get a kick out of it. So good. All right. So we want to definitely post in the comments. We want to see, try this out. How did it impact you? And what kind of things did you run into? And what did you do about it? Because we want to learn from you as well. Oh, I didn't think of that strategy. Very cool. Because just like Ben said, this is tattoo worthy. Right? As soon as you try this, you're like, oh my gosh, game changer. I'm not going back again. And I need something to remind me to never go back again. And that's a huge point right there, because this epic stone that we just jumped on.
Yes, it's huge. So guys, while we're trying to help people detach themselves from this and that, we need your help to help us get attached to everybody else, because we want to help everybody else become, I said the word everybody else 15 times in that 3 seconds. We want to get plugged into the world to be able to help everybody. So if you can like, comment, subscribe, share, ring the bell, anything you got to do, we want to be able to help everybody with their perspective as much as we possibly can. So guys, thanks for tuning in. On behalf of Rick, this is Ben. We are the Zen Heads. I hope you guys have an awesome week, awesome month, awesome year. Take care, guys.
Awesome sauce.